Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me 1 second here. Well, my name is Chad Novak, and I'm here on behalf of the Saskatchewan Taxpayers Advocacy Group, which is a grassroots organization proudly standing up for the rights of individual taxpayers. Our organization believes strongly in providing fair and equitable treatment to all taxpayers in our great city. I'm here today to comment on the agenda item before you, which is addressing the funding for the Regina Plains Museum, also known as the Civic Museum of Regina. I would like to first offer my sincerest gratitude to this council for their efforts in September of 2015, because without their input, the museum would not have been afforded the opportunity to reopen to the public while they tackle their business plan. Like so many others in our great community, I was excited to hear that the doors would reopen thanks to the generous offering of the Regina City Council and administration. Unfortunately, though, the doors never reopened. Following up on this commitment, I had personally contacted members of the Regina Plains Museum Board, and they had suggested that the reason for this delay in reopening was administrative in nature and to simply have patience. Well, as far as I'm aware, to this day, the doors still remain closed to the public. I do note, however, that according to the report before you today, they did still accept payment of $43,183 of the $60,000 that was allocated for reopening. My question is, where did this money go, and how was it spent? I'm hoping that there is some kind of accountability being expected from the museum board, as this is taxpayer money that I and others have fought very hard to help them receive. And I note that that the report suggests they also received their full operating grant this year. And again, I have to ask, where is that money being spent? Speaking specifically to the business plan, I am pleased to see the great detail this report goes into. It is obvious that a lot of research was done by this consultant, and they are well versed in museums in general. I am disappointed, however, in seeing barely a mention about other civic museums and absolutely no reference of them when it comes to the recommended option. Now, to me, this ought to have been a key determining factor when deciding on a final recommendation. I personally have done extensive research of other civic museums across Canada, as you'll see in Appendix A, and Regina falls far behind all of them in terms of financial support. Another key opportunity missed by the consultant, and I don't know why this was done, but was lack of public consultation. Of all the stakeholders listed in the report, nowhere did I see the general public in there. Now, to me, they are the major stakeholder, not only because they are the ones who would visit the museum and put other people there, but they are also the ones funding it through the City of Regina grants. I was assured by at least one museum board member that public consultation would take place during the development of the business plan, but unfortunately that never happened. This was a huge missed opportunity, and I am very disappointed that it never occurred. What this situation basically boils down to is dollars and cents. According to council, the museum are just paying too high of a rent. The market, however, suggests otherwise. For want of a lower rent, the museum board went to the trouble of getting an expensive business plan put together that completely transforms them from what we know them to be today. To put this into context that the layperson can appreciate, if the Regina Plains Museum were your vehicle, it simply needed an oil change and maybe a good tune-up to be just as good as new. Now, the extent of this report, however, is akin to installing a brand new engine into that same vehicle. Sure, it's great, but it's far more costly, and most importantly, is it really necessary? Now, keeping with that analogy, the good thing is that the new engine has only been ordered and has not been installed yet. That installation is the implementation plan that you are being asked to fund $85,500 of taxpayer money towards today. I suggest that we take a step back while we still can and decide if we really need that new engine, or is it just as valid and feasible to simply do that tune-up on an oil change. I think it can and ought to be done. I've developed a presentation that I would love to provide to you if you were interested that sees the museum remain as is. The only adjustment needed is a relatively small increase to their operating grant. It should be noted that per capita grant they currently receive is about 80% lower than the average civic museum in Canada. In my presentation, the numbers I present bring the funding up. It's available in Appendix B, but still far below the average. I think this solution would be very well received by the general public and the museum board alike. Now, in closing, I would like to reiterate that there is indeed a high demand for this museum, and given its long existence, it would be devastating to our community if we were to lose such a valuable resource. Please respect our city's heritage and provide an immediate funding boost so that they can reopen their doors, stay in their current location, and give them a long-term funding commitment that enables them to thrive for many years to come.
Mr. Norwick, your time is up.
Thank you for your time today, and I will open it to any questions you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Other questions on the Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, first off, thanks for your presentation. Thanks a lot for the research you submitted.
Thank you.
So your suggestion that we should maybe change the model, like, do you see that new model when you presented as something lesser? I don't know. I think you're at the community collective services.
Yeah.
Was there, and I think the tone from the presentation of the people involved with the museum was that this is actually a step, like a positive thing that they're doing. Do you not see it as that?
Well, I'm not going to say whether or not I agree with the overall business concept, because it sounds like something's unique and innovative, and I like the idea. One of the contingent parts of that, though, is that it requires a downsizing in their current facility. I don't think that needs to happen. I don't think that I'm all for the idea of having satellite locations, because I think that helps bring in more people in, and especially at the airport, people are coming into our city, new residents or tourists. But I don't think they need to go through the hassle of having to move again. They don't need to go through the hassle of trying to do all of that decommissioning things, all of that kind of stuff. We're talking about a 5,000 square foot versus 2,000 square foot. If it's simply dollars and cents, which from what I've been understanding from everything that's been discussed here and in previous meetings, that's all it is. So why don't we just pony up a little bit more cash? If we're willing to put 85,000 here tonight, I mean 100,000 extra for an annual funding commitment, I think is reasonable. And it at least gives them an opportunity. And I just, personally, I don't want to see them have to go through the headache of having to move again. And they've got a great location there. I love the location. It's accessible, it's visible, and according to market research, the rent is not that bad.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Other questions for the delegation? Thank you very much.
Thank you.